Tonight's the first chance Canadians will have to hear from Bloc Québécois leader Gilles Duceppe. CTV's Omar Sachedina joins us now with a preview of the French language leaders debate. Good morning, Omar.
Good morning to you, Bev.
So we'll be watching, certainly we'll be watching Gilles Duceppe. Elizabeth May is also going to be there. With all of the issues that have been bubbling up of late, what are people expecting to be either the most contentious or take up the most time?
Well, certainly it's going to be very fiery. You know, this is the first debate where all 5 of the leaders will be on stage. We know from the last debate that there were 3 on stage and it was pretty fiery. Each one was clamoring to get their voice heard. So it will be alive and it will be active. But, you know, Quebec has unique issues to its province. The niqab issue has been an issue that's been at center stage, really, this debate whether women should be allowed to wear the niqab during the citizenship ceremonies. Now, yesterday, Tom Mulcair, the NDP leader, tried to clarify his position. He said that he supported the current rule, which says that a woman has to unveil basically privately before the oath of citizenship, but he does not support the ban the Conservatives brought in 2011, that ban on the niqabs when the woman takes the oath publicly. Now, the reason that matters is because there are very strong, very visceral feelings against the niqab in Quebec. Popular opinion really opposes the wearing of the niqab at citizenship ceremonies, and yet Tom Mulcair has been enjoying a pretty healthy lead in that province. So you could really expect to see Gilles Duceppe and Tom Mulcair really going at it, because obviously Gilles Duceppe's party, look, it's really on political life support, so he'll be coming out swinging. He wants to up his numbers, and if he does, that could come at the expense of the NDP. So that interaction will be especially interesting to watch tonight.
Well, and interesting too, we haven't talked a lot about sovereignty in this election campaign, but you know, odds are it'll be brought up tonight.
It certainly will, especially in a province like Quebec. And look, you know, in terms of whether people want to talk about it or not, if you talk to voters, it isn't as much of a hot button issue as it was in the past. But the leaders have been trying to bring it up as an election issue. For example, you know, Tom Mulcair has said that if he wins, he will repeal the Clarity Act. He has also said that in his view, 50% plus 1 is enough to begin negotiations on Quebec separation if Quebec voters choose to go that way, choose to vote that way in a possible referendum. Now, in contrast to that, Justin Trudeau came out a few weeks ago with former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien and said, look, this is a person who wants to easily break up the country. So you can see those divisions or those contrasting opinions really coming into play. Whether that in itself will be enough to persuade voters, change how they would vote, that remains to be seen. The niqab issue, as I mentioned, that's another issue that will be coming up. And, you know, we have to also mention that Quebecers are not that much different from the rest of the country. So things like the economy, jobs, the environment, those, you know, issues that appeal to all Canadians or are of interest to all Canadians certainly will be coming up at this debate as well, Beth.
And in terms of the format, and because you were mentioning, you know, certainly we saw the last one, there's a lot of crosstalk. In terms of the format, the moderator, is it similar to what we've seen in the past, just more of them up there?
Yeah, so there will be all 5 leaders. You know, Elizabeth May will be there as well, and we know based on the very first debate that she comes prepared, really holding the other leaders to account. She brings her A game, and she will be the first to admit that she knows she doesn't have any hope of becoming Prime Minister. That's not why she's there. She's there to, you know, affect the narrative, to contribute to the conversation, and she has been fighting very hard to be a part of this debate. She hasn't been invited to all of the debates in this election campaign. But in terms of the format, there will be a moderator, and then there will be 2 other individuals as well who will be asking questions. So it will be crowded, and you know, the moderator's job isn't easy based on what we saw last time. That moderator this time will really need to make sure that there isn't that crosstalk that you mentioned, because, you know, based on the reaction that you see on Twitter, for example, during these debates, there isn't a lot of appetite for leaders interrupting each other. So while Canadians want to see their leaders being, you know, clear, being forceful, you know, standing by their positions, when it comes to interrupting and not being heard, Canadians don't have a lot of patience for that.
We'll be watching. Omar, thanks so much for joining us.
We'll get our popcorn ready. Exactly. You're welcome, Bev.
Sounds good.